woken up at night, midnight. I heard, well, I thought it was the neighbors arguing. I've looked for Bigfoot in the forest and never seen him, but he would come to the trailers I was at. My name is Steven Slusher. I became interested in Bigfoot early on when I was an adolescent because they had books at the library written by Ivan Sanderson. It was on eight men around the world. There wasn't really a Bigfoot phenomenon yet. He just called it eight men, and he told about different examples of eight men in North America, South America, Africa, and Asia. So that's how I got interested in it. But in Arizona, we had a creature that we grew up with when we went camping. Heard stories of the Mogollon monster, and that was a giant ape man that supposedly killed some Boy Scouts. At least that was a campfire story to scare you, so you don't wander off at night. But and so and the Mogollon monster. Well, I lived in Sholo, Arizona. I had a encounter with Bigfoot. I didn't see him, but I heard him, and he's yelling and screaming and shaking my
Well, let's,
trailer.
let's
And
let's go back to like how old were you when that happened?
where in Sholo?
Yeah, when you had the encounter where you saw Bigfoot.
Oh, I was like 42 by then.
Okay, so a lot of time passed
Yeah, a
between
lot of
when you were a
time
young
passed.
boy reading those books and actually seeing Bigfoot. Did you have any research or read books or anything about Bigfoot? Was it just a gap in there in between?
No, it wasn't a gap because they had Leonard Nimoy in search of, and they had a couple more books at the library on Bigfoot that I really liked a lot. So I was familiar with Bigfoot pretty good. So it was just a subject that I was so interested in. And also in 1971, we went to Arkansas to visit relatives, and they were having on the news something called Chicken Man. It was a giant ape man that was raiding people's chicken coops. So they didn't know about Bigfoot either. That was just a local phenomenon, like the Mogollon monster. But in Sholo, in 2003, I was living alone in a trailer, my mom's trailer, out in the forest, and I would hear screams and have the trailer shake, and also I would hear tree knocks, and lots of times that he whoever was doing the tree knock, it would break the branches on the tree. You can hear it. It was so strong, and but there's a lot of paranormal experiences going on at the same time. A lot of people experience paranormal experience with Bigfoot, and I did at this time in May of 2003.
Now, was it
So
2003 when you actually saw the Bigfoot as well?
no, it wasn't until 2017 in New Mexico.
A lot of paranormal things were happening at that
In
trailer where you were living.
Well, in Solo, a lot of paranormal things were happening, and also in my trailer in New Mexico later on. And the Bigfoot thing in 2017 was I was woken up at night, midnight. I heard, well, I thought it was the neighbors arguing, a couple of my neighbors arguing, because they do in the backyard. We lived out in the country on a farm, and we had our house and a house next to us as a rental. But we were living on a farm in the country next to a wild high desert area where there's been reports of Bigfoot. But anyway, I couldn't make out the language. It wasn't Spanish or Navajo, it wasn't English. and but it was real loud and real fast. It was like two or three voices going on. And before that, I heard an ambulance. I heard like three or four different whistles harmonizing with the ambulance. I thought that was real odd. But anyway, I looked out my window through the blinds kind of awkwardly, and I could see three big, well, two real big figures and one about 5 foot with it. So it might have been a family of Bigfoot, but I couldn't see him too well because I was at such an awkward thing and I was afraid. So I let the blinds go down, but that's what I saw. It was just real dark. One was really large and the other one was not as large and the one was a lot smaller. They were just standing there by the plum trees about 25 feet away. And then that chatting went on for about 10 minutes. Then it stopped and there's a loud owl hoot. Then it was silence. So I went out next day, looked for prints, so I couldn't see him. The ground was too hard. It hadn't rained for a while or whatever. So, and that's pretty much the extent of the Bigfoot phenomenon with me. Otherwise, I've had paranormal experiences here and in Sholo and in Montana. Would you like me to talk about them? Or?
Yeah. Has anyone else where you did see, let's talk about Bigfoot just a little bit longer. Where you
Okay.
did see that Bigfoot, has anyone else seen a Bigfoot in that vicinity, do you think?
Oh, yes. There's a casino about 4 miles from here. And one morning, the the guy who does security was opening up, and a Bigfoot was outside it, walking around. I heard that actually on Finding Bigfoot. It was talked about it on the Durango town meeting, and then I on Facebook I had a woman confirmed that who worked at the casino, and she talked about it, and they told them that if they ever see one, then leave it alone, the employees. And then we live right by the Navajo reservation, and there's a big farm called Nappy, Navajo Agricultural Production Incorporated. Anyway, um, people see Bigfoot up there on top of the plateau a lot. The Navajos do, and we're right by San Juan River, and the Navajos see Bigfoot along the river. I know someone. I volunteer at a museum called the Salmon Ruins, and there's an archaeologist in Navajo. His wife saw one on their property standing next to the horse corral. And they showed me a picture of a print that he had. It was a very good print. So I don't know how big it was. I didn't ask him or whatever, but it looked pretty big. So and so there's been lots of reports of Bigfoot around here on the reservation near the river and stuff.
Did you ever hear Bigfoot anymore after that at one time with the chatter and seeing them?
No, that was it. Yeah, it was it was really scary because they were very loud. It was some of it sounded like the Sierra sounds, but they talked very fast and very loud. I don't know what they were talking about. It could have been something. Just how are you, whatever. So I don't know what they were talking about, but
Oh,
they
that
were
would
really.
be that would be strange. And did you have any suspicion that there was a Bigfoot in that area?
I've heard of them because of the the Navajos along the river. So, and we live near the river, so I guess I suspected it. And it was very strange hearing those whistles too, right before that, out in the field. imitating the ambulance because I don't think there'd be 3 or 4 humans out there trying to imitate ambulance. It might have been a Bigfoot, but who knows? But it was very unusual.
What do you
Yeah,
think the owl sounds? Do you think the owl sounds were genuinely owls making that noise?
no, it was too loud and too deep. It sounded like the biggest owl in the world, but so I don't think it was an owl. I think it was a Bigfoot. They often imitate owls. So,
Well, you said that the Navajo were in that area. What is their take on Bigfoot in the area? What is their relationship with them, and what are their beliefs about Bigfoot?
well, they have a they have a guy, official ranger, who investigates the reports and stuff. So they they I saw on Finding Bigfoot they had a episode where they were up here in the reservation, and the Navajos talked about how how they get visited occasionally and stuff, and that they aren't afraid of it or whatever, but they respected it, and that it was something that's always been here. The Apaches live here too, nearby, and so they also have encounters with Bigfoot.
What do
And
you think? What do you personally think Bigfoot is?
me,
Yes.
okay, I think it's well. At first, when I was a little kid, I just thought it was an ape man. Then I hear all these weird things going on about him, about how they can disappear or appear at will, like, and that they might be interdimensional or go through portals, and that people um, can communicate with them telepathically or whatever. But also, I came across the story Davy Crockett. He wrote in a journal how he was in Texas and he's camping out with another guy, and a Bigfoot, a hairy ape man appeared out of the forest. And he said he talked to him and told him not to go to the Alamo, which is pretty interesting, but it's really in Davy Crockett's diary. So who knows? You know, I mean, Teddy Roosevelt tells a story about some miners or whatever, and one gets killed by Bigfoot.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah,
legend, not only among the Native Americans, of course, have a lot of legend about Bigfoot, but then, like you said, there are others as well. It's not uncommon. I think sometimes they do take on different names for them. So it's difficult to have a cohesive idea of what they're talking about. But if you really look at the descriptions and the behavior, it all kind of boils down to probably Bigfoot.
yeah, right. That's true. So I mean, I certainly believe it, and I've seen them, so I have
Right.
no doubt. And I heard
The
them.
ultimate test is whenever you actually see one. Well, now you have seen one, and you've spent some time in the woods, living out in the woods. Have you ever seen orbs or UFOs or craft or anything like that regarding the wooded area?
I've seen a UFO here, and I had an experience where we were driving to church, and we are going past a abandoned refinery nearby here, and I looked out the window, and there's a UFO. But it was probably about 12 feet wide or whatever big, and it was like 20 feet in the air. It was pacing our car evenly. It didn't speed up or slow down, it just paced the car evenly. At the end of the refinery, it just disappeared. So, and also, I was in my father's Cadillac driving home from a church meeting about 11 o'clock at night, and I was going down the road to home, and there was nobody on the road except me. And I saw a very bright light that was a half dome of light, very bright. It was so bright, but it didn't illuminate anything, curiously enough. And for some reason, I just drove right into it. and, and I was caught in it in suspended animation for a while. It was like the car wasn't running. It was quiet, and all I could see was light in the cab. And then about 20 seconds later, I saw two sets of headlights go past me on the left, and then I was driving home. Like it was just I was released from that suspended animation and just driving home, and it was very odd. So I wasn't afraid or anything. Just, but I don't remember anything else about it. I haven't been hypnotized or whatever about it. So
Do you have any
yeah,
missing time, or was it just a real short span of time, or did you notice?
it was a short span of time. It didn't seem like it had missing time, but I might have a little bit. But I can tell it wasn't like, oh, I was missing an hour or whatever. It might have been a few minutes, but I don't think so. I don't think there was missing time. It was, I
During that
couldn't,
time, you said while you were in the car and you could tell you were in a suspended period of time because the car shut down or there was no sound from the car.
there was no sound. It wasn't running. It wasn't going. We were just there. I was just there. It was in front of a friend's house nearby, about half a mile from my house. So yeah, and there's a at that vicinity. My stepsister said somebody saw a UFO once. I remember that right there. So and
Well, any idea if there are any kind of unusual electromagnetic fields in that area or any oddities? What's around there?
just farms, farm fields, and there's some um, houses, kind of like subdivisions too. But where we live is a big farm, alfalfa farm, and there was just fields on the south side of that road, and there's houses on the north side. It's a rural area. It's called West Hammond.
Yeah.
It's irrigated project, so
But nothing unusual that no nuclear facilities or anything like that close by.
no, no
Okay.
nuclear
Okay.
facilities.
What's the first memory that you have of a paranormal event?
When I was 5 years old, I went into our bathroom. There's a window that was like 7.5 feet up near the ceiling, but it's covered in ivy. But then I saw a figure in there smiling at me, looking at me. It looked like a witch from the Wizard of Oz. It was had pointed features and smiling kind of sinisterly at me, and I ran out. I ran into the living room, told my parents about it. You know, they kind of believed me, but I think my dad went outside, didn't see anything. So, and I would occasionally hear chanting at night, real low, guttural chanting, like Indians or whatever. Because where we live, and one of the properties nearby, we in the field, we found pottery. It's Hohokam. Indians used to live there. It was probably a village there. So I don't know if there was what I heard was Indians or demons or what. So ghosts. And that was and the radio would turn on occasionally too by itself. My mom was in the room once with a friend and did it. So they said, well, that's unusual. So but it wasn't until years later that I got the bulk of my paranormal experiences, and they started in 2003. Well, they started first in Fort Collins, Colorado. I was watching the Mothman's prophecies, on DVD, and I put the DVD in the case, and then all of a sudden I had a ream of paper on the floor, and it rose up about a foot and fell back down. And then I was playing with the see and tell um, with my two nieces, young nieces, and I was pulling on it. And all of a sudden, they had a real deep, gruff, angry voice come out of it, and they laughed and said, "He sounds really angry," and stuff. And then a couple months later, I moved to Sholo because I was working with my cousin as an electrician on a renovating a bank in town, but I lived out in the forest in my mom's trailer. And I had someone living with me for a while, but then he moved out into an apartment there. And then in May, I was sitting in a chair, comfy chair or whatever, at night, and all of a sudden I heard a high pitched noise in the room over me, and and then all of a sudden I started shaking my legs and my arms, and then my body, and the chair was shaking, and felt like the trailer was shaking. And then I heard a scream, a very loud scream. It lasted about 10 seconds.
Well, let's go back. I mean, you go through these stories so quickly, it's hard to get any details about them. So let's go back
Okay.
to this one in Colorado. How old were you? You said you were about 20 years old, or how old were you
Oh,
then?
oh no. I was like 42 then.
Okay, so this is about the same time as the Bigfoot incident was happening, or it was about the same year, right? Because I have
Yeah. It was in
2003.
2000.
Yeah, you're
It was
hearing
in 2002.
screams.
I hadn't gone to Arizona yet. I was still in Colorado in 2002, where I had the see and tell, and then the reading the paper jump, and watching the Mothman's prophecies and stuff.
So
Yeah,
this paper, it was a roll of paper, you said it was in the floor normally.
a ream of paper. Yeah,
Oh, a ream of
yeah,
paper. It was out in a box,
yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
it rose up.
Yeah, it rose up and dropped down real loud,
And about how far did it go up?
about 8 inches or whatever.
And
So
no one was around. Did anyone else see this but you?
no, it was just me in my bedroom.
What do you think was happening there? I mean, and what were you experiencing during that time?
Well, it was a highly unusual situation. I had um been working as an electrician, and we were working long hours working on a school project in Denver, and I got real tired and whatever, and I quit working for a while, and I just felt kind of odd all over and stuff. Like, and I would do stuff like play the lottery and think that I knew the numbers, or thought I could see signs in clouds and stuff like that. It was, I had a little bit of a delusional thing going on, but it was definitely a paranormal experience as I had though. So it was just associated with my moods or whatever. So
So do you think, and I don't know, would you call that a poltergeist type of experience where something is moving or?
yeah, I would. I've had poltergeist experiences. Yeah.
So, so do you think the paper was moving because of some projection you were making toward in your
No,
environment? No.
I just think it was something in the room, a spirit or whatever,
Could
myself.
you see or feel anything like that, like a spirit in the room?
No, I didn't really, so I couldn't really tell. But my step no, my brother-in-law, he lived there too, and he's had lots of experiences with paranormal things too. And I just thought it was coming off of him, actually. It's just, it was a kind of phenomenon that I got from him. So
Mhm. Now tell me about the see and tell again.
it was, well, you pull on it and it would say like a cat goes meow or whatever, dog barks. And then all of a sudden I pulling on it faster, and then there was a gruff voice. I couldn't make out the language. It was very gruff, low voice, started talking to us with me and my two nieces, young nieces there. And it did that for about 10 seconds. They were laughing and saying it sounds really angry. And so that was it about with that.
What did it say? Could you make out the words?
No, I couldn't. It was it was kind of demonic, really, but I can't tell if it was or not.
Yeah,
But
it sounds kind of scary. But you couldn't tell what it was saying. You could just tell it was a low kind of rough voice that sounded angry.
yes,
Yeah.
uh-huh,
And you said it was your two nieces that you were playing this with or doing this with?
yes, uh-huh.
And did they what were their thoughts on it?
They thought it was funny, and they commented how angry it sounded. Whatever, you made him mad, they said, because I was pulling on the string kind of fast. And so they thought I was making the whatever it was, making the voice mad, so
Right.
might have.
And was that at the same location where the ream of paper moved up and went back down?
Yeah, it's not my sister's house. They're renting it in Fort Collins, Colorado. I was living there as a working as an electrician. Then I quit that job, and then I moved back to Arizona to Sholo, help my cousin. A couple months later, in early 2003, the Ring of Paper and the Sea Intel happened in about October, November 2002. So
And then you went to Arizona, and then that's when were hearing the screams, right?
yes, and I was
Yeah.
shaking in my
Mhm.
shaking and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And that,
all of it.
and I had another experience where I was in bed. I went to bed soon after, about a few days after I had the shaking in the chair, and I was lying down. I just lied down, and my feet started shaking real bad, and my hands, and then shaking progressed up my legs and up my arms. My whole body was shaking. I was like a tuning fork. I felt like, and the bed was shaking and it sounded like the trailer was shaking. Then all of a sudden I heard a scream again, the same scream. It was just in the room. I couldn't really locate it. Very loud. It would sound like a woman being murdered or whatever type of female scream. And then I stood up. I was real afraid and I was bouncing off the wall. And then it stopped about 10 seconds later after came on. And and then I just went back to bed and like nothing happened. It was really odd. Some people would have just got out of there. But my take on it was very curious, and I'm a very curious person. I just wonder why that happened or whatever. And it's well, also when that happened, when I was shaking, you could feel air pressure lowering or whatever, and something like coming over me, um, something invisible, but and the air pressure was changing. For some reason, I associated that with aliens, with UFO. I don't know why, but I just did. And then, yeah, so there was, they had the usual hauntings there. I would have smoke alarms go off in odd hours, and I would hear low guttural voices and shakings of a trailer. And once I heard it would sound like sheet metal when you shake it, it sounds like thunder. I heard that one night. And so it was, and knockings, lots of knockings on the outside walls, the inside walls. And sometimes I would get up and it was so quiet, you couldn't hear anything except the noise I was making. And I lived near a busy highway about a mile away where you could hear the traffic, but I couldn't hear it. And,
How was the
and
knocking different, like in there with the outside and inside, as opposed to like some of the knocking that Bigfoot makes? Does it sound similar?
well, no, because it was just like a tapping, knocking. While Bigfoot, it was loud and more forceful on the outside walls. And the building, the trailer would shake somewhat too. So it was different. Yeah, it was just banging, not real. It was hard, but it wasn't real hard. It wasn't that forceful, and it was just bam, 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 bam. Like it was all over the trailer. At first, I thought it was somebody outside, but it happened on the inside too. It would take place all over the trailer.
How
You know,
long did that go on?
well, it would happen about. Um, it went on several nights, and it would last about 20, 30 seconds at a time. Just enough to wake me up and get afraid, and then I would just go back to bed. So, yeah, it was a very odd period then in May 2003. And there's something that really strange happened then too. I had a cassette tape. I had it in my pickup, and it was a recorded tape of a group called Love from the 60s. And the album was called Forever Changes. And there's a song called The Red Telephone. In it, there's a nursery rhyme. They're taking him away today. They're throwing away the key. Who will it be tomorrow, you or me? And I would hear that as I got out of the pickup. And then, no, I mean, I would hear that every time I got in the pickup. It didn't matter where it was, where I left off. And I would check the tape, and the tape would had moved to where it was. And that happened about 4 to 5 times. And I just took the tape out, finally got kind of weirded out about it. Yeah, it was just be on the same place on the tape when I got in the pickup. The nursery rhyme. They're taking him away today. They're throwing away the key. Who will it be tomorrow, you or me? It was really weird.
Sounds
And yeah, then I thought I'm gonna go to Safeway, and I'm gonna think of 5 numbers that I play a lot: 9, 11, 12, 17, 19, and see, and get a quick pick, see if those numbers come up, just to check, see if this is weird stuff is happening, just happening, and see what would happen. And then I got to Safeway, and I got a pick, quick pick, where the machine would pick out the numbers, the computer, and it got all 5 numbers, and that was like a 1 in 300,000 chance. So I felt I thought that was pretty outstanding, and was kind of shocked, and I got kind of afraid at the same time that something could read my mind, manipulate a state-run computer, and give me those numbers. So I thought, well, I guess this stuff is really happening.
Well,
Yeah,
do you think it's possible that maybe you just are very intuitive and just knew those numbers were going to be coming up at that time?
no,
No?
I think because I play it all the time. If I It's just numbers I play all the time. I don't know. I thought it was something could read my mind actually. So I think it wasn't me. I didn't feel like it was me. I didn't, and all this stuff. I don't think it was my energies doing all this stuff. It was something else.
Yeah. But you don't think you could just know it kind of like psychically?
Well, it's possible. Anything's possible. So yeah, that's true. Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so and I would go hiking looking for Bigfoot then too out in the forest, but I never came across the Mogollon monster, whatever. They came to the trailer, wood knocking and stuff like that. It's kind of funny how I would, I've looked for Bigfoot in the forest and never see him, but he would come to the trailers I was at in Sholo and in New Mexico too. I don't know why. It's kind of curious.
Do you think there's any correlation with some of these kind of paranormal experiences you've had, and then the sighting and hearing Bigfoot being in your parameter as well? Do you think those are in any way connected?
I think so too. Well, the one where the Bigfoot, the trailer in New Mexico that I heard talking, chatting away real loudly. I had several instances. Well, what that night, my microwave went crazy, and I opened it up, and it blew up, and it ruined it. It was There was 333 going across the digital screen. It was going real fast, 333s, and then I just opened it up to stop it, but it exploded.
Oh my goodness. Was that dangerous?
No, it wasn't a loud explosion, but it ruined the microwave.
Sure.
Yeah, and also in that trailer, about the same time, I woke up at 1:30 once in the morning, and I wanted to wake up because I would wake up at night and watch TV, and I thought I wanted to wake up at 3 o'clock to watch Angel for some reason. I like the show, and I kept watching it every day, every night. And then I just muttered to myself, I want to wake up at 3 o'clock. And then all of a sudden the room spun around for about 2 seconds. And then the digital clock read 3:04. And I got up and went to the room where the TV is and turned it on. And it was the Angel was on. I missed 4 minutes of it. So I woke up to 3:04 instead of 3 o'clock. I requested, but so I thought that I didn't wasn't messing time because I was conscious the whole time. I think I time traveled an hour and a half about. So
Yeah, because you were aware and then suddenly it was that time, right?
yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever had anyone I don't think I've ever had anyone that felt like they had a jump in time to the future like that without just having a bunch of missing time, not knowing what happened. What were you doing during that period of time? Were you lying in bed or
well,
sitting up, or
I was setting up in bed. Yeah.
so you just, you fixed your alarm and the next thing you know, it was that time?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Could have
And
been missing time, but it didn't seem like there wasn't any interval that you can't connect,
it
right?
seemed like time travel to me.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, and I had stuff happening. I visited my friend in Montana, Kalispell, and the first night I was there in the back bedroom, and I heard lots of noise and banging and voices. And next morning I told her, you know, your bedroom is haunted. And then all of a sudden the blinds behind me shook real violently. And then that night I went to my bedroom. Before I got to the bedroom, I was thinking about playing a CD, and David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust CD. And I thought a song in my head. Then all of a sudden in the bedroom, the CD started playing right there on that song, you know. So it was what it was in my mind started playing on the CD itself, really. And
Did you think something else outside of you created that, or did you think that you participated in that creation?
it's probably both. I felt like both, but anyway. And then I one Saturday I went to play the lottery at a convenience market. I left my wallet on the counter for some reason. I wasn't watching what I was doing. And um, anyway, I went back to get it. It was gone. And the clerk didn't know where it went. And security tape didn't show what it was because the light in the morning it was blinding and couldn't see. And then I went home and canceled my cards and muttered under my breath, I wish I had the check that was in the wallet. And then the next morning, I got up to eat breakfast, and we had like six or half a dozen boxes of cereal in the pantry cupboard. And I got one, just randomly chose one. It was a Cocoa Krispies knockoff. And I poured a bowl and ate it. And I was still hungry because it was Cocoa Krispies, just air. And then I noticed something in the box when I was pouring the second bowl. And I reached in and pulled out my check that was folded just like it was in my wallet. And so it was an act of teleportation, I guess. Friendly
I've heard of
spirit.
things like that before, things that would, suddenly end up missing or being gone, and then they return, but they return in a different location. That's strange, and a box of cereal is really odd, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard of that before.
It's not like a thief that took it and then returned it, because that would just wouldn't probably happen that way.
No, no, it wouldn't happen at all. But I tell people that story and they try to have a rational explanation, but I don't know.
Yeah, figure that one out, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't know how you would. Did you ever retrieve any of the other things?
No, I wish I should have said I wanted my wallet back. No, that was it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I had a helpful spirit anyway, so I got the check back. And
Mhm.
also there, I woke up one night because I felt weight on my bed, and I saw a woman crawling on my bed, and she was in her mid 30s. She had short blonde hair, black pants, black blouse, and kind of pretty. But anyway, a ghost, I guess. She saw that I saw her, and then she got afraid. She got afraid and disappeared. She It was odd how she disappeared. Like the first half of her receded into the middle, and the back half receded into the middle, and she was gone. And that was it with that.
I've
So
heard of some people witnessing Bigfoot doing something very similar to that. A portion of them would be missing. And
really,
and also I've heard of them, turning into what looked like kind of just a shimmer. You could still see the energy and you could see them moving, even through the woods, you could see them moving, but it was like would take on different energy forms.
yeah, I've heard of that too. That's why I don't think he's an ape man. So yeah, I heard of that before.
When you actually
Anyway,
saw Bigfoot, though, I know it was dark, you couldn't see extremely well, but when you actually saw Bigfoot, did it seem like just a regular flesh and blood creature?
uh, yeah, yeah, it did actually. It didn't seem odd at all. Just a regular creature, the three of them. So
That's the thing, is it's, out of, between, ghost aliens and Bigfoot, Bigfoot seems the most physical. And so I
yeah,
think, that's the one that kind of holds out to not just be some kind of a spiritual being, because it seems very, very physical and
yeah,
demonstrates a lot of physical properties. But then some people see Bigfoot in other ways as well.
yeah, that's true. It's seen in both ways. So
Have you had any other experiences that you felt like were like time warps or a time travel experience?
well, I've had a teleportation again once. It happened a couple of years ago. I was on my bed, and I have a mini storage in Arvada, Colorado. I live in the Four Corners area in New Mexico. But anyway, I wish I had a DVD, a certain DVD, the searchers or whatever. And the next morning I woke up and it was on my bed from the mini storage. So that was the act of teleportation, I guess.
Yeah, of an item, not you yourself, but of an item, right? That you were
Yeah,
wanting. Hmm.
yeah, it
Kind of like a
wasn't me.
check.
Yeah, right. Like the chair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of like manifesting that from wherever it was taken off to put it in the cereal box. Why on earth do you think the cereal box?
I don't know. That's a very good question. I know you always got prizes and cereals when you're kids, so maybe it was just playing around with that. I noticed that um, spirits are very playful with people, and they can get hold of people's egos and whatever, think that there's something special and alienate them from other people. Like it happened to my uncle. He got abducted and he became alienated from people. He thought he was an alien, whatever. But he eventually died because he got a cut on his leg and he didn't want to go to the doctor. Anyway,
Well, that's
and I
sad.
have,
Hmm.
yes, I have seen fairies. I guess I call them fairies. I was driving home from work about 2017, and in the field, I saw five school grade sized children dancing in a circle, three girls and two boys, and the girls wore a tight fitting old fashioned dresses, and the guys were dressed up in old fashioned pants and shirts, and they're prancing around very eloquently in the circle going around, and it was more eloquent than the ballet dancers. Actually, I thought so. And there was this funny thing because my stepfather was by him. He was getting off the ground, and it turned out that he broke a couple ribs. and, and then I all of a
So
sudden,
wait, so your father-in-law had broken ribs and he was in that same field where you saw these
yeah,
at the same
he,
time, at the same
he
time.
yeah, he's nearby about 20, 30 feet away. Yeah,
And these fairies are dancing around. Do you think they had anything to do with with him getting hurt?
I don't know. They can be mischievous, I guess, mischievous. So I don't know. but they didn't seem too sympathetic. They kind of seemed like they were delighting in it. So
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
yeah, and then I drove on and I couldn't see him anymore because the house has gotten in the way. And then and also on the farm we had once we were taking care of a donkey, my stepsister's donkey in the property next to ours, and where I filled up the water tank. It was the summertime, and the donkey would drink 2 or 3 inches out of the trough every day. Then one day we went to go feed the donkey in water, and all the water in the trough was gone, and it was completely dry. There was no leak, and there was no mud, and the donkey couldn't drink that. He would only drink 2 or 3 inches every day, and so that happened for about 3 days with the water missing. Couldn't figure that out, so I would fill it up, then it would be gone the next day. So that was kind of odd.
I've heard of UFOs craft coming in and taking water out of lakes and ponds anyway. I don't know about a trough. That doesn't seem like it would probably be enough to bother with, but but I don't know. I mean, possibly.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I just went back to normal. It
So it was
wasn't
just 3 days of the water disappearing, and then it went back to normal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I always mention this stuff to my stepdad, and then he just don't want to remember it. Also, we were working by the barn, and this woman, Indian woman, middle-aged Indian woman, walked was walking along the ditch road just above us, about 20 feet or so, and she wore these odd clothes. They looked like she wove them, and they look like when we go to Nappy and get corn, they look like they're made out of corn sacks or whatever. It's a woven material, and she walked past us and didn't say anything, and we didn't say anything to her. And she went back by the gate, and all of a sudden I saw her on the other side of the gate and just disappear. Yeah.
Do you think that was a ghost, or do you think it was just something projecting to you? What do you think it was?
At the time, I thought it was a ghost, but there's Navajos lived around there. That we find pottery and stone axes and stuff like that. So I just thought it was a ghost.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
hear a lot of stories about things of that nature, where you see someone, a Native American, and they appear real and then they disappear, they're gone. And oftentimes they're in areas where people also see Bigfoot, because I interview people about Bigfoot more than I do ghosts. Um,
really.
yeah, as were talking about the time warp thing, could it be that some people or some of us can, see things from the past or the future, and these things may not be in our what we call our present time as much, but in maybe a time warp, and that's why they disappear or something?
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I don't know though, but I can't tell for sure. But it's
No, I think
possible.
that's a speculative question, because I don't know that
Yeah,
anyone knows that for sure. I know in remote viewing, I know people have seen things in the future and it seemed very real to them, and it was marked as a wrong answer because it wasn't there, whatever they were remote viewing. And then a few years later, the very thing that they remote viewed was there. So they were remote viewing a location, but they were viewing it at a time. It was like 3 years down the road, they saw something built there. So,
oh
I
really?
know I know our minds can see things in different time zones, just, deliberately through the process of remote viewing. I don't know about, seeing something that possibly has been there in the past or the future. where it's not deliberate, but I would suppose it's a lot like, just spontaneous psychic moments as opposed to something that's very structured like remote viewing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a thought. Yeah, could
Yeah.
be.
I think
Yeah,
consciously we can do a lot of things consciously that we don't always realize what's happening, but
yeah.
um
Well, there's just this learning all this stuff is just in an infancy, and then we
yeah,
just don't know yet. It's
yeah.
very fascinating, all this stuff, and
Well, it is, but with all the stuff that's happened to you, I would imagine it's also a little unnerving.
you know, I'm a kind of an intellectual, and I'm very curious. I wondered why this was happening to me. I didn't. It was unnerving, and I would get frightened, but at the same time, I thought this is very interesting. Why does this happen to me? Because it's just curious. Like I have a picture, a photo of what looks like an alien. It just showed up in my camera. It's of this creature that's has a big elongated head and small ears and small eyes and mouth. I showed it to people before. They say, "Yeah, that looks like an alien." I don't know where it came from because I didn't take it. So, yeah,
Wow. Would you be
yeah,
able to send would you be able to send that to me where I could show other people?
yeah. I guess I could. Yeah, I can.
Okay, just message that to me and I'll get it on the end of the show here. I think it'd be interesting to look at too.
Yeah. See, the last time anything odd happened was a few months ago, about 3 or 4 months ago. I was lying on my bed watching videos on my tablet, and I wanted to get up in time to watch something on TV, and it was that time. And then I heard a voice from the tablet say, "Better get up, sweetie." So I think whatever this is has a sense of humor about it, but it's kind of sinister at the same time, you know. So I don't know. It's not.
Kind of a jokester energy. I've heard a lot of people talk about jokester stuff. I don't have a lot of that
Yeah,
sort of thing happening to me, but I certainly know a lot of people that do.
yeah, yeah. I have to have a sense of humor about it. That's one thing I do, because I saw an example of my uncle. He took it too seriously, and he just got alienated from people. He thought he was something special or whatever, and he was too credulous. But it was kind of sad how he died
Yeah.
alone. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it can play tricks on us. I think we do have to be grounded and careful when we're going into these realms that we don't totally understand or have a lot of direction on how to maneuver through them. Be cautious and have a lot of really great people around you to keep your feet on the ground.
yeah, that's true. Very true. You really need that.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
most people are skeptical when I talk about it. My
Hmm.
parents are, and also the funny thing is, I was in my parents' house and the television was on, and all of a sudden there's a plasma flash in front of the TV. It was very loud and kind of a boom. And I told these stories to my stepdad and stuff, but he just poo-poo them. Then all of a sudden, just right then when that happened, he says, "What did you do?" So I think unconscious, I think he does believe that I can do things or things happen around me, but he don't want to acknowledge it because
Right. Yeah.
what did you do?
Sometimes when we can't explain things, we don't want to acknowledge it. We do. It's better off just to put it over there in the corner and pretend it doesn't exist. I think
Yeah,
when we don't understand it sometimes. So that's where a lot of people put it. I think that's why there's so much skepticism.
yeah, right. So, but I think it's fascinating. I like listening to people's anecdotes and stuff.
Oh,
about
yeah.
Bigfoot paranormal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do seem to often go hand in hand, not for everyone. Some people just have a flesh and blood experience, and other people have a lot of UFO experiences and paranormal experiences, and Bigfoot experiences kind of go along with some of that for some people. But it's and I don't know why they don't intercross always, but I get a lot of people that have Bigfoot encounters and paranormal experiences both.
Oh, you do? That's pretty neat. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't expecting that when I started doing this at all because, it was Bigfoot was
Yeah.
Bigfoot,
I
and
know yeah, that was my attitude too. But then they kind of go together. I don't know why, but they do.
yeah,
But
I don't know. That's part of the a bigger mystery than just the fact that, Bigfoot's out there. There's another mystery about Bigfoot. What is Bigfoot? And I almost always ask that question, and I just get a lot of varied answers, of course.
yeah.
Well, Stephen, I'm going to go ahead and end our interview for today. I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of these things with me. And I also find your stories very mysterious and interesting. And hopefully one of these days you'll get to the bottom of what's really happening here.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Linda.